Charles Murray is greeted like this on our nation's finest college campuses.
We're here to shut down the white supremacist Charles Murray. Is that right?
Charles Murray has been denounced as a white supremacist, as a hate-filled race scientist.
Charles Murray, who has been pouring racist sewage into open ears for a couple of generations now.
And all this name-calling has obscured what Murray's life's work is really about. Murray's life is about the invisible revolution.
It has been a slow revolution. It has been largely invisible.
Murray's invisible revolution is the great unseen restructuring in American life. Not along lines of race, or gender, or nationality, but on IQ, on the power of people's brains.
The nice thing about being me is that when you're encountering people who don't know you personally but only have heard of you, I have a very low bar I have to meet. And so if I just seem moderately sane, they say, oh, he's not so bad after all.
Understanding Charles Murray's invisible revolution starts with a simple question. What is IQ?
IQ refers to an ability to figure things out, an ability to take information in quickly and analyze it accurately, an ability to manipulate complex concepts in your mind. And the quicker you can do it, the more accurately you do it, the smarter you are. So what does an IQ score mean? You take 100 kids, you give them IQ test scores. They are going to be distributed in a pattern that looks like a bell curve. So you will have a relatively small number of kids at the left end who are really not very smart at all. 10 people out of 100 have below 80. 100 is average. And once you get up to 140, 145, you're talking the top 1% or fraction of 1%. And these are the people who can do some things that the rest of us simply can't do. There are all kinds of mathematics. For example, I'm not smart enough to do them, period. I can try and try and try. I'll never be smart enough.
Intelligence is the grand through line of Charles Murray's life. It explains his own story, how he's come so far, and in his work, what he discovers about IQ helps him see the invisible revolution. The revolution is composed of 5 hard truths, some inconvenient bits of reality. Hard truth number 1, IQ is mostly genetic. The difference in intelligence between people in America are largely genetically pre-programmed. Murray's childhood shows this fact in action.
I was born in Newton, Iowa, population 15,000 people. I think I probably started to realize I was good at school about the 2nd grade. I knew that I could read a lot better than some of the other kids could. And the fact is that in elementary school, everybody, the kids and the teachers, know from the end of the first month of 1st grade, who the really smart kids are in an intellectual sense and which ones are very much likely to have problems.
This everyday sense that you're not supposed to say out loud matches the latest science, which shows that intelligence is obvious so early in school because intelligence is highly heritable. It's largely determined by the IQ of the parents.
The tool for estimating heritability is to compare samples of identical twins and fraternal twins. Fraternal twins only share 50% of their genes, whereas identical twins share virtually 100% of their genes.
Twins are the natural way to figure out what really drives IQ. These are people with roughly similar environments, but differing degrees of biological sameness.
It results in the ability to partition the variation into 3 components. The genetic component, there is no such thing as a gene for IQ. Instead, you have thousands of genetic variants within the genome that have little plus and minus effects on IQ. Another component is what's called the shared environment.
The shared environment encompasses all the common institutions kids interact with, including their parents, neighborhood, and school.
And the rest is what's called non-shared environment. Non-shared environment could be that one child has a severe concussion at age 4 that the other child doesn't have.
The non-shared environment also includes things like individual teachers or friends, specific to each kid.
The shared environment plays an astonishingly small role. And you can say at this point, the heritability of IQ is indeed probably around 60%. All at once, you are in the position of saying, it's not true that anybody can be anything they want to be if they try hard enough.
The notion of school as a mechanism for mass intelligence elevation is a delusion. In modern America, school matters much less than biology. Then, in 1961, Murray's life reveals another hard truth, that the SAT is an IQ test. It does in fact work to identify intelligent students. Analogies, math puzzles, mind-numbing reading comprehension. The SAT is the bane of millions of high school seniors every year. And it's birthed a lucrative test prep industry, which soaks in billions of dollars while also promising profound point gains for its clients.
It will guarantee you a score of 1,400 or more.
These courses give people the impression that the SAT actually tests for wealth, that it's simply a privilege detection device. This perception has been studied and debunked.
We had some good studies which indicated that an SAT prep course on average produced maybe a dozen or 18 points increase. It may be that now the test is more coachable, but it's not a big change. Much to the frustration of rich people, there is only so much they can do to jack up their kids' SAT scores.
The SAT was specifically designed to be ungameable, to pierce through privilege to reveal raw underlying ability.
I think the phrase diamonds in the rough was actually used by the designers of the original SAT.
And Murray is a classic diamond in the rough.
I mean, I went to mediocre schools. Sorry, people in Newton who are listening to this, I know you're very proud of the high school. It was the Newton Public School. Newton Public Schools were pretty mediocre. I got good scores on the SAT, quite good in verbal, okay in math. That's what the test was designed to do. A kid in Iowa coming out of a mediocre school system gets a score in the top percentile, and it gets their attention.
The SAT works. It finds the best brains in the country. The next chapter of Murray's life reveals another hard truth, that elite colleges fuel IQ segregation.
And my SAT score was good enough that it helped get me into Harvard, I'm sure.
The SAT is a key tool for a mass skimming of the cognitively gifted. It enables colleges to find and swallow up our smartest students. These schools then propel those same students to the same small set of affluent urban enclaves, areas of hyper-concentrated cognitive power.
The concentration of Harvard graduates in elite zip codes is extraordinary. But what it means is that what's an ordinary neighborhood is completely unlike neighborhoods elsewhere.
Murray's next hard truth: the economic returns for having a high IQ have exploded.
Think back to 1950, and let's say that you are really, really good at math. Well, you can be a math teacher. You can be an actuary. Now let's say you have exactly that same skill set, today. You could have companies in Silicon Valley offering you 6 figures plus signing bonuses to go to work for them. Or you could juggle offers from quantitative hedge funds.
IQ can now generate personal wealth like never before. Now, Charles Murray's fifth and final hard truth. This truth was a key subject of the book that made him infamous, The Bell Curve, released in 1994. But this truth, this fact necessary to understanding what's happening in your country, was buried under controversy.
A Bell Curve is certainly the most talked about book in publishing in recent times.
Somehow when racism comes in academic robes instead of hoods and sheets, it's given acceptability.
People lying about the book? Lying about me?
The controversy centers on this.
Historically, Black Americans have scored about 1 standard deviation below the white mean, which means 15 IQ points.
This seems like pure evil, supposedly scientific justification for racial hierarchy, for slavery, for white domination.
So we had to deal with it. And we did. In chapter 13, the infamous chapter 13, we said, it seems very likely to us that probably nature and nurture both have something to do with the black-white difference. What might the nature of the mix be? We are resolutely agnostic on that issue. As far as we can tell, the data do not yet permit an estimate.
This is Murray taking no position on the causes of this gap.
It is on the basis of that paragraph that the bell curve is about the genetic inferiority of blacks. I am not kidding. That is the sum total of our position on genes and IQ and the racial difference.
Murray explicitly says the data do not justify racism, that it would be statistically illiterate to prejudge anyone based on race.
You have a large amount of overlap. So on an individual level, you simply deal with people as individuals.
I do not want people to look at me and think they know one damn thing about me. They don't. Why should I do that with anybody else?
This controversy causes people to miss the bell curve's core hard truth, that there is a cognitive underclass, and it is suffering. In his book, Murray travels to the other end of the bell curve.
You go over to the first decile, the bottom 10%, and you have almost a third of the people in poverty who are in the bottom 10%. That's what's called a strong relationship between IQ and poverty.
How do people respond to this kind of chart?
I cannot overestimate the degree to which people read chapter 13, which discusses race differences in IQ, and they ignored a great deal of the other really cataclysmic information that was in the other chapters. In the other group, life gets worse, and its members collect at the bottom of society. Poverty is severe, drugs and crime are rampant, and the traditional family all but disappears. Economic growth passes them by. Technology is not a partner in their lives, but an electronic opiate.
These are the hard truths. IQ is primarily genetic. That the SAT is an IQ test. That elite colleges are IQ segregation machines. That the economic returns on high IQ have exploded. And all the while, the cognitive underclass falls deeper into the abyss. This is the invisible revolution, the restructuring of society along a new fault line of intelligence.
America's discussion of social policy has been carried on in a never-never land where human beings are easily changed, where all the children are above average. It is time to get serious about how best to accommodate the huge and often intractable individual differences that shape human society.
So what does it mean to get serious? What is the solution to the revolution? The solution is a set of soft truths. First, IQ does not determine happiness. People can be happy and unhappy all along the bell curve.
IQ refers to a mental ability which is not the same as wisdom. It's not the same as common sense. You have people who can figure things out that are puzzles to be solved, who still do really stupid things in terms of their life decisions and the rest of it.
Charles suffered this hard truth firsthand. After Harvard, Murray joined the Peace Corps in Thailand, met the woman who will become his first wife. They come back to America and start a family.
So it's 1979. I am chief scientist at a respected research institute, and I am wretched. I'm in a marriage where my wife and I had been living civilly together in quiet desperation for years. So whereas by all the objective measures I was doing great, I was deeply unhappy.
Murray had reaped the rewards of high IQ and was still miserable.
I'd become modestly famous, and the thing I want to impress on everyone is it didn't make me happy. And that is absolutely true of money and of fame both, as far as I can tell. They just simply aren't as important as you think they are when you're 22. And work you love and a person you love really are as important as everyone says they are.
These core pillars of happiness depend on effort and responsibility, not IQ. And that makes them accessible to everyone.
If you really got the short end of the stick in everything, you aren't very smart, and you are then a person who is a manual laborer, but you are putting a roof over the head of your wife and children and food on the table and bringing those kids upright, you had a happy village.
The second part of the solution: happiness requires freedom.
Freedom is extremely valuable for generating the kind of environment in which people can get deep, lasting satisfactions in life across a very wide range of abilities.
Happiness comes not from what you're given, but what you've earned, freely. Excessive government squeezes out this freedom. When it's taking care of your kids for you, serving as your husband, replacing a job. These well-intentioned policies actually rob people of the chance to earn their happiness. The third soft truth, the final piece of the solution: America already has the blueprint for human happiness.
I am in love with the American experiment. These guys came very, very close to crafting the perfect balance between a government that had enough power to govern but left people alone. The founders were geniuses in constructing a system that allowed them to do that.
Earned satisfaction is possible for everyone along the bell curve. Everyone can carve out their place, assuming they have the space.